Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mom Project's mPower Hour. I'm Elizabeth Shackelford, and I am excited to be here today with team members from Power School, Sharice Jackson, Kristen Morton, Sarah Rudell, Michelle McCabe, and last but certainly not least, Kate Wright from the Mom Project. Today, I am going to dive in with this incredible group of women who are all from different employee resource groups within Power School about the power of allyship in the workplace and how we can all work together to create a more inclusive and supportive environment for everyone and drive positive outcomes within our organization. For those who don't know, employee resource groups, or ERGs for short, are groups of employees who join in their workplace based on shared characteristics or life experiences that build high trust relationships that help employees flourish and increase employee retention. A few notes before we get started. This session is saved here on LinkedIn and on YouTube, available for rewatch at any time. And we will have time for audience questions at the end. So add any questions into the comments throughout the session, and we will try to get through all of them at the end. And again, feel free to connect with our participants. We'll drop their LinkedIn profiles here. We can't wait for this conversation. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, before we dive into the meat of our conversation today, I wanted to take some time to introduce you all. Can we go around and I'd love to hear about your title, your company, and the ERG that you work with, as well as a quick intro about you. Sarah, let's start with you.
Yeah, hi there. My name is Sarah Rudell, and I am a senior manager of facilities for Power School for the North America offices. And I am representing the PRISM LGBTQIAA2 plus ERG.
Great. Well, welcome. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen Morton. I'm a senior product manager at Power School. I'm co-chair of the Power School Parents and Caregivers, or Power PAC ERG, and we work with parents and caregivers across the organization. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, with my husband and 2.5-year-old and soon-to-be daughter.
Well, congratulations. And I love the Power Pack. That's a really clever name. Thank you. Sharice, what about you?
Yes, my name is Sharice Jackson. I am a senior product owner for Power School. I'm co-chair of the Black and Allied Employees for Change ERG. I know, very long name. And we work as like a safe space and advocacy group within Power School for Black and Allied employees. And I'm here in Baltimore with my 5-month-old, soon to turn 6 months. So it's very exciting around here.
You have your hands full.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, Michelle, how about you?
So my name is Michelle McCabe. Nice to meet everyone. And I am the supervisor of customer success here at Power School. And I'm also the co-chair for our Diverse Abilities ERG. And we really work to focus on really promoting folks with diverse abilities and how we can provide inclusion here at Power School. And I'm also a CODA. So I'm a child of a deaf adult. And so ASL is my native language. So definitely making sure that we intertwine all of that fun into our ERG as well.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
And then Kate, how about you?
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Kate Wright. I'm an enterprise sales director here at the Mom Project, and I lead our LGBTQIA plus ERG, also called PRISM. And I also directly support our partnership between the Mom Project and Power School. So really excited to be part of this conversation.
Well, I'm so glad you all are here today, and I cannot wait to get into the impact that everyone's individual ERGs drive to the organization and how it affects Power School. For those in the audience that don't know, would you mind telling us more about Power School and its mission and value statement that withholds culture? Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Power School believes in the simple truth that every student deserves the best opportunities in life. And this vision is inherently hinged on equity and inclusion at its foundation. Representation in the workforce is responsible for this effort as a first step, and the creation the creation and growth of the employee resource groups is the next step. So those of us representing the children and being responsible for the efforts that we put forth in that work is really important. And the our core values are PACT, passion, accountability, curiosity, and teamwork. And I think all of the folks in our ERGs really do embrace that, and they live it every day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what makes Power School a great place to work?
I can take that one. So as a former teacher who transitioned into education technology, at Power School, I really love having boundaries around working hours, being treated like a professional, and working in a very collaborative atmosphere. I genuinely enjoy working with and learning from my manager, my teammates, people across the organization. It's just been a great collaborative experience. The culture is very collaborative and professional. As a mom and as a co-chair of the Power School Parents and Caregivers ERG, we do have some pretty great benefits around parenthood. So we have a child care FSA, which is similar to a healthcare HSA, except it's pre-tax money that you can use for childcare spending. We obviously have our ERGs. We have some great flexibility with the DTO policy that I found especially helpful for, when I have sick kiddos or daycare is closed. And then as a hybrid employee, there's definitely some flexibility around as a remote employee, there's definitely flexibility around kind of arrival and departure. But I know that that's in place as well for hybrid employees attending or going to the actual office. And then outside of policies, I've just found Power School to be a very family-centric place to work. Managers are very supportive of working parents and advocate to put families first, both by what they say and also by what they do. Kiddos making appearances on especially internal calls when it's needed is very accepted, not considered unprofessional. It's just about getting done what you need to get done. And kiddos are sometimes part of that equation.
Oh, I love that. And so much of what you all do and what we do aligns. And that's why, we make great partners. And I love talking about flexibility and being able to kind of work that into your day, because we know what moms really want. And the key thing they want from their jobs is flexibility and the ability to be autonomous and work hard, but with that freedom to be able to create their own, what works for them. Let's dive into your ERGs. I know that you all represent different ERGs within Power School. So can we hear more about each of your ERGs and the role it plays within the organization?
Yeah, I can start. So as I said before, our ERG is the LGBTQIA2+ group, and we advocate for visibility and inclusion both internally and externally. So identifying ways that we can really highlight a good reason to work at Power School within this community and create a very good supportive group to promote that. And then also advocating for the students that we are trying to help as well.
That's amazing.
I can speak for the Power School Parents and Caregivers ERG. We're a relatively new ERG, and our primary goal is just to provide support to other Power School parents and caregivers throughout the different stages of parenting and caregiving. So we do have monthly meetings with different topics. We have a pretty active Slack channel to share resources and best practices and ask questions. And then the other major thing we do try to do is to be a voice for parents and caregivers when we work with our executive leadership team and HR to make sure we're advocating for practices that best serve our parents and caregivers at Power School.
I love that. Thank you.
And I can speak to the Black and Allies Employees for Change. First and foremost, we're a safe space, right? We seek to educate. We stand on about 4 pillars: education, give, change, and celebrate, right? And so what we do is we work within the organization to share more of like our story and a little bit of history. I know plenty of times we've had functions where we've had historians even come in and share a lot of information, and it's been very exciting to learn more. But not only that, we're also a bit of an advocacy group. So working with the Power School leadership in order to, influence change in hiring and other types of diversity, equity, and inclusion areas. Yeah.
And I love those 4 pillars. I feel like that's such a foundation to kind of go off of that. And then you have, so much inspiration and fodder to kind of facilitate all these different aspects of the business. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I love that, Charisse. I'll go next. So I represent the Diverse Abilities ERG, and really what we do is we really strive to make sure that we're increasing that awareness of folks with diverse abilities and really try to make sure that we're promoting inclusion, really breaking those stereotypes, driving that advocacy, creating like a company that is empathetic and really helps celebrate like individual strengths. Regardless of whatever anyone's abilities are, we're really all here to learn from each other. And that's really what we do. So like I teach, I had kind of mentioned earlier, both of my parents are deaf. And so I hold a monthly ASL class to teach American Sign Language to anyone who's really willing and wanting to learn. And it's just been really fun. We also have like a really active Slack channel. We focus on like I can kind of speak to myself as well. I have epilepsy. And so like we did like an epilepsy first aid training, and really we're getting ready to celebrate National Disabilities Independence Day coming up in July. So just a lot of fun activities to get everyone accustomed and aware of all the different abilities that we have here and how we can really work together.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That sounds incredibly impactful.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Can we join for the ASL course?
Yeah, anytime.
Send the invite. We'll come.
Of course, you're welcome.
And Kate, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. I was just going to say, I wanted to chime in as I represent the Mom Project's LGBTQIA plus ERG PRISM. We are also a safe space and platform for employees within the community as well as our allies. And so we really exist to celebrate each other and be a support system for each other, coming together across, shared experiences and identities. But really at the core of everything that we do is recognizing that our identities are intersectional. And so we're all unique, right? We all bring unique perspectives and different experiences to the table. And so what we do is we learn from each other, we lean on each other, and we're really a resource for the broader Mom Project team and beyond, incorporating advocacy and awareness into our platform as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Kate, thank you so much for your work. And, I think all of you impact your businesses in such different ways, but I can speak for, what Kate provides to the Mom Project is such a wealth of knowledge and resource. And we feel so lucky to have ERGs within our organization.
Thank you.
For sure.
And so our main topic for today is allyship. And I would love to hear from each of you about how you define allyship and what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah. So I'd love to start on that. I think allyship it's put simply, it's support, right? And how we show up to support each other. There's I don't know if everyone's heard of the platinum rule, is treat other people how they would like to be treated. So it gives an opportunity to understand, in our allyship, how are we showing up for somebody, and is it what they want us to show up with? Are we educating ourselves? For me personally, it's a growing and vulnerable process. And so if somebody's showing up with a drive to be curious about, learning to be the best ally, what that looks like, and learning each other so that we can show up for each other, that is key. There's definitely not a single equation to it, just leading with your heart and embracing.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I would definitely say allyship is all about support and just being aware of the needs of different people, especially across our organization, and trends that come with certain groups of people that you need to be especially aware of, both when interacting in a professional sense and then also when doing your job. It's not only the way you interact with your colleagues, but it's also how you perform your day-to-day duties, and just this kind of empathetic and aware mindset at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
I can add to that. I agree with what everyone has said, and actually, I'm share a story. that kind of illustrates allyship in two different ways.
Oh, cool.
When I was probably about 10 years old, I go to sleepaway camp. And there was like this one girl who targeted people who looked like me. And she was like a bully. It was like terrible. I never told my parents this story, so I'm sure they'd have had reactions. But it was one particular time we were on the playground and she had a ball and she just kept throwing the ball in our direction. And we're like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, she can't aim. Like, the goal's over there. We're just thinking she can't kick. We're going on.
Yeah.
And then finally, she did it one time. We're like, you know what? No, we're keeping the ball. Like, at this point, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
She finally comes over and she says, oh my gosh, did I hit you? And we're like, no. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I'll try again harder next time. And it was like, in that moment, it was like, wow. And we were all just kind of stuck.
Wow.
The counselor got wind of it and later on, spoke to her in private. And I wasn't meant to hear this conversation. They had it in the bathroom and I was just going to get some water from the water fountain. And I was like, ooh, and I paused and I just listened. And she asked her, like, why did you do that? What's wrong? And she's like, well, I just don't like them. And they're like, why? And she says, well, no reason. My parents just told me that I shouldn't.
Wow.
And in that moment, there was I felt empathy. The other side of that is one of my friends who got wind of it. She was out with her family at the time and she came back and she was my road dog at the time. And she asked me what happened. And she's like, okay, no problem. So next day we're in the pool. She's like, where was she? And she was the white girl. I don't remember. That was my homie. We, we tight. And she was like, which one was it? And I was like, it was her. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she goes and just dunks her in the pool and says, leave my person alone. And but I will never forget either one of them. I will never forget either one of them, and I will never forget that moment. And that was my first lesson in allyship.
Absolutely.
The counselor brought empathy back into the conversation. She was able to identify that something was wrong, right? And trying to pull that together and not being mad or upset at anybody in the situation, trying to get back to a common ground. And the other person, my friend, right? I appreciated her because in a moment where I felt powerless, she helped me feel powerful.
I love that.
I love that. And so for me, that is allyship, being able to bring power back to someone who might have lost it and in an empathetic way.
I love that, Charisse. I love that. And I feel like that's such a good segue into how I view allyship is really this is a great demonstration of what allyship is really to me is I feel like I tell this to my kids all the time, we were given 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because it's far more important to be quiet and listen to the perspectives of others that are around you. And making sure that you're creating this safe, comfortable environment so that someone else can bring their full self. And when they do actually bring their full self to the table, that's when you really start to get to know and understand people. And then that you as yourself can grow as well. So I love that example. So I thank you for queuing me up. Great, Charisse, too. So I love that.
Anytime.
I got you.
I can share too. I mean, Charisse, I feel like that's such a great example. When I think about allyship, it's not just about the desire, I have an interest and a desire in supporting a particular person or a community. It's literally about the follow through in what you do with that desire. I also think that too, it's not just about you can care about people, which is great, but really acknowledging your own privilege and then working to educate yourself about how to be better, how to do better about marginalized experiences, and really actively working to dismantle those systems of oppression. I always think about too, it's the resulting psychological safety that one can feel knowing that they have an ally in their corner, someone who recognizes them, somebody who supports them. I always think about too, like, it's not asking for a lot to support someone in being their authentic self, right? It's like some people don't even have to really think twice about bringing their whole self to work or to their daily lives or to certain social settings, right? They don't have to question whether or not they show their whole self or just part of themselves. And so for many, it's a privilege to just simply exist in their whole full capacity. So to me, allyship is not only compassion and, supporting other people, but it's recognizing your privilege and then, acting from a place of love to, recognize who people are as whole people.
So true.
Yeah. All of those answers were so fantastic. I'm sitting here writing notes, and I wrote the time code so I could go back and watch this again. Thank you. You're all teaching me something, and I know that the audience watching is learning something too about how they can kind of work within themselves to bring their full allyship into the workplace, and how we can just create a more inclusive culture. So thank you. And thank you for sharing those stories and being vulnerable. We really appreciate it. Kind of on the same vein as allyship, what are some common challenges or barriers to practicing allyship personally and professionally? And then really, what are some of those tangible ways that your ERGs have made an impact within Power School or the wider community?
Yeah, I would love to start on that. I think a personal barrier for anyone's allyship, right, is that vulnerability and the fear of, being called out versus called in, or the fear of making a mistake. And, I think inherently none of us want to hurt anybody. And when that happens, it becomes very, it can be very isolating. So I'm a very much truth to power person. So generally I don't get too worried about speaking up in those moments. But on a professional level, I think that one of the more, the harder allyship for, at least within the LGBTQIA community, is the, professionally, within business, it can be very difficult because of the, with revenue generation being very much policy, right? You need funds for the business to run. But at the same time, the fundamental differences between the activism and advocacy for our right to exist and thrive is met with just kind of political, religious, and belief systems that believe the exact opposite. And when revenue is involved, it can really create a barrier in isolating groups that disagree with the fundamental human rights that are being sought after. So I think that can make it feel a little bit harder to find an avenue for that allyship in a lot of ways. But steps, single steps at a time. And one of the things that PRISM is super proud of that we've been able to do in our allyship for the students is we were able to push for and get implementation of customizable fields within the software so that parents are not just mother and father, and that there are, multiple options for that, as well as the students' identities to be properly provided to the school. And it really empowers the school to be inclusive. And additionally, from an internal standpoint, we were able to really help our people team highlight the benefits that we have for adoption. We have some benefits around supporting that. And we also have benefits for, gender affirming care within our insurance. So being able to use that to promote, to bring in more, of the rainbow mafia, if you will, into our fun family group and make them know that they would be supported and welcomed. And it's Pride Month too, so we also have a lot of really fun stuff. We get them in for that as well.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of those fields in the application, or kind of where you put that. It really does make a big difference.
It felt monumental, and we're really, really proud of that.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, and I feel like I can kind of echo off of those things as well. As for me, I think of how can we impact from a product perspective as well, from the diverse abilities ERG, trying to look at how can we as a company try and make our products more accessible to students? How can we make our products more accessible to families as well? So like, are there certain language barriers that may be out there? We have parents that speak different languages. What are those languages, and how can we, intertwine those into our platforms? Is it, when it comes to if a student is watching something, are they needing, closed captioning? Are they needing what kinds of remediation tools? Like we now, we're working on something, an AI tool that's called Power Buddy, which will actually be, within our platforms. It's an AI tool that can also help students as they move along. So it's like just making sure that like there's a hand-holding process and that we're really listening, to the voice like within our organization and externally from parents, from children, those students, and like how can we really make sure that like as an ERG as well, like we're listening to those and helping drive those as well. So, and I know that we have like a wonderful product team that really helps apply those things, which is really pretty cool. So I think that's something that Power School does really, really well.
Amazing.
Yes, and Michelle, thank you for that, because absolutely that was one of the things I was going to mention. It's like I think one of the barriers is that a lot of people don't really know what allyship means. Like they think it has to be some grandiose, big to do, right? When it can just be something simple as just be mindful, right, in your day to day. And BAEC has members from all various departments, right? So taking the time out to understand like what are we seeing across our different specializations, right? And how can we take that information back with us in our day-to-day and help and increase that change. We've been able to work with our HR department to have panels on bias, like on implicit bias, and being able to like really lobby for hiring practices and like finding different funnels, right, to get more people in. Like that's been a really big part of it. But also like to your point, just being able to have a say in the product. What does that mean, right? And taking some of that information, taking that empathetic ear, right, back and saying, well, how can we start to design this in a way that we're all included in that vision, right?
Well, and the main through line I'm getting between all of your answers is the ERGs within Power School, obviously empower the employees, but you're driving change with the larger organization when it comes to your students, when it comes to your product, how people interact with Power School. And I think that is so powerful, and not something I think that we talk about a lot with what ERGs do. Is it's so important to hear about how you're driving change and how these things are implementing a wider group of people than just Power School. And that's what's so impressive to me.
Yeah, and I think it's about like leading with empathy, and like I feel like walking around like as a big giant heart, like how can we help, like how can we listen to the voices of others, whether it's here like within Power School and creating that safe space, and then when it comes to like that broader our students, our parents, like how can we also help them too, and learn from each other. So
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. And on that note, how, from your perspective, can leaders and managers support and encourage that allyship among their teams?
I can start with that one. I was just thinking about something when Charisse had mentioned that it doesn't have to be some grand gesture to be an ally. I think a lot about like being a leader and being a manager of a team, right? It's recognizing people's differences, right? And acknowledging those differences. I think it also goes understanding that everyone goes through life, differently. We all have unique experiences, and it's really about providing space for everyone, regardless of what they've gone through, what they've been through, what their experience is like. I think that's huge, regardless of how they identify. And really, I see it as being you're a spokesperson, essentially, right? For providing opportunities for them and ensuring that there's pathways for growth and advancement. So if we're thinking about like in the workforce specifically, being a leader and to be an ally is huge, right? To have someone in your corner that's not just a colleague, it's someone that you actually report into and that is leading the way and making change, like Power School is doing so greatly across the business. is, all of that sort of funnels up into that too. So.
Absolutely, Kate. That's 100% it. And I think that leading by example, to use a cliche, is it's just what it is, though. And to have our leaders be inclusive and calling in the way that Cherie spoke about the counselors that brought the empathy and the compassion versus calling out, knowing that you're, as a leader myself, it's important to me that my team grows as a unit and that I'm investing in that, as well as their individual growth and their individual opportunities are made available to them or like shown to them so that they know what they can do, and believing in their ability to be their best version of themselves, and providing space for them to learn and strive for that without fear of reprise or shame or anything. I think is so important.
Yeah, totally
agree.
agree.
What you said about calling in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo the lead by example. I've had the privilege of having two managers at Power School who were also working moms. One currently is. And so being able to see how they, when they take DTO, they're not reachable. Their DTO is about focusing on their family and spending time with their family. And so they demonstrate that, and they're not trying to juggle both things at the same time. Normalizing things like, I have to attend this meeting while I'm picking up my kids. So you might hear a little bit of background noise, but like, I'm still here, I'm still working. I just happen to be in the band practice pickup line at this time. So that's where I am. Kind of separate though from leading by example is also, I think, being an ally by making sure that your team understands positive motivations for doing things, even though they might be seen as kind of a pain in the neck. So for example, recently the product that I've been working on, we've been trying to develop some mocks for an upcoming workflow that we're trying to build. And originally when I suggested, or when we were trying to build this out, we had the word view in several places in our UI. And in working with our user experience designers and writing team, they brought up the fact that, view is a sighted person term. And so using something different like display content instead of allowing someone to view content is a much more inclusive term to use. Or instead of saying enabled and disabled, using activate and deactivate. And so, understanding that the motivation for doing that isn't so that we can be PC, but it's so that we can make sure that we're building products that are inclusive of everybody and that people feel comfortable experiencing our products and feel represented.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I also think and I'm just going to kind of echo all of that in saying that I also think it's really important to also lead with vulnerability. And when I say that is like having that approach when it comes to your work, that I have the capacity to mess up and cause harm, but it's okay. I'm accountable for me making mistakes, and that's okay if you do too. We're here to support each other and to work with each other, and lift each other up as well. So really creating that safe space where it's okay. We're here to help each other. On my team, we always say one team, one heart, one family. We're here to really truly help lift each other up, and we really do kind of march to the same beat. So, which is really nice.
Oh, I love all of those.
Yeah.
And I think, Kristen, even what you said about you're calling people in, you are not calling people out. And I think that goes back to it. And so I think all of those tangible takeaways of how we can just invite more empathy and vulnerability into our workplace is only going to increase people to, feel like they can bring more of themselves to work.
Agreed.
And the more we all keep doing it collectively, the more we can normalize it.
Yes.
As a reminder, we do have time for a Q&A. So if you have any questions for any of the members on our panel, or about Power School, or about the Mom Project, feel free to drop them into the chat and we will get to them shortly. My next question is at the Mom Project, we have an incredible community of moms, dads, and allies. What advice would you give to them on allyship? Sarah, we can start with you.
I'll take it. So I think that really everything that we've spoken about rings true for parenting as well, right? Leading with vulnerability, leading with kindness. Children watch and they absorb so much. And I think the example, that Charisse gave in the beginning of the chat around a young child inherently probably wonderful being taught by her parents to have this, not even just prejudice, but like active, terrible behavior for no reason. Be the person that your children want to look up to and that your children feel safe with, right? For anyone listening, the Trevor Project is an incredible resource for any LGBTQIA youth. If you're supporting them or if you want to learn how to support them better, definitely look at that. There are statistics of what you can say and do just to make them more apt to want to be here. And that's one of the biggest barriers. And there are really great statistics that have that speak to they did a survey with, I believe, about 18,000 queer youth. And there is basic things that I want to just share with everybody that will be incredibly helpful. The primary thing is that trusting that I know who I am, standing up for them, not supporting the politicians that advocate against their well-being, and looking up things about their identities, educating yourself, right? So these small, simple acts can create a huge difference in how they even go out into the world with that confidence to know that they deserve that allyship and kindness from anyone, and they know to speak up for it as well.
Thank you for that. We've included the Trevor Project link in the comments, so anyone can go there and take a look and check it out.
I would say, to add on to that, making sure to honor the voice of others, give people a space to have a voice. One of the things I tell my partner is like, in the world, there's so much discretion that you have to have in the different spaces that you're in, depending on who you're dealing with, right? And it can sometimes maybe feel like you're wearing a mask. Home is the one place you can take that mask off. Be as weird as you want to be. Say what you want to say, right? Because the people here, they're going to love you regardless. And you need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think everyone should have that.
Yes.
They should have that and have that space. Right.
I love that. Like, I feel like for me, like, I feel like leading, like, as a leader, I do these things, and then, like, as a mom to my children, like, I want to be that example. I want to be that person who is going to speak up, who's going to stand up, who's going to be that barrier. And that's what I really feel like allies do, is that they speak up and stand up for those who may be excluded from certain spaces. And you're doing that without the expectation of getting something in return. Like, it's not about that, right? It's not about me. It's about how, at the end of the day, making sure that, we're here to raise good humans, and that we're doing that in solidarity, and we're being vulnerable, and even creating that, like I said, that workspace. But it's also a space for your kids to know it's okay to make mistakes. Come to me, like, talk to me, communicate with me. Like, the number one thing I feel like that we can do is to be good communicators and good listeners, and letting them know that we're here to listen to those challenges and work through things together. So, and then educating ourselves, like, we don't know what we don't know. There's so many things that I have learned by joining all these other ERGs, and that I get educated on the daily. So I think just creating that space, it's okay to make mistakes, and that we're all here together to learn from each other, and everybody's perspectives. So
I love that. I love how this theme is how to create inclusivity both at work and at home. And it really
Yep.
starts with us as parents and how we can foster that
Mhm.
and bring
Yep.
more of that to the table.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's what I was hoping to speak to as well. As a toddler mama, we're soon entering the phase where my son is about to start asking very awkward questions in public, and so thinking ahead of time about how I'm going to address those questions, and even thinking, farther in the future about when he goes off to kindergarten and elementary school, and someone makes a comment about two people in a book that are of the same gender and appear to be in a relationship, and they make some kind of derogatory comment about that. How do I prepare my son now so that he can advocate for, that being normal? We have our neighbors next door are a gay couple and are some of the most wonderful humans that you can ever imagine. And so just making sure that he understands, like, just this like loving, empathetic behavior, and that I can be prepared as a parent to speak to that and utilize resources. There's so much children's literature these days that surfaces how to talk to your kids about different topics, that can be a great resource. So yeah, just mentally preparing yourself for how you're going to have those conversations with your kids to make them an ally from even toddlerhood.
Yes, because it starts so early. And I remember when my daughter started asking questions, I was a little overwhelmed with because I could figure it out in my head, but how to articulate that to a toddler mind was intimidating to me. And so it really did take that education and figuring out what the best way to talk about it is. And yes, I agree with that. And I love how it just starts at home and then filters into everything that we do at work.
Yeah.
Kate, how about you?
I love all of this. I was thinking about this question more from the lens of like a job seeker, right? From our community. Yeah. Moms, dads, and allies join the Mom Project platform because they're looking for a company who gets it, regardless of what that means to them. It's flexibility in a hybrid, setup, or working fully remote, having the flexibility to take your kids to school, right? Things like that. But it could be because they're looking for a different culture. And I've been in the position, in the past, I've experienced not feeling like you could be your true self at work, right? And so I think that's huge. Is it can feel scary, it can feel deflating, right? If you don't have that in your current company, but just know that you will find that, and the Mom Project is here to support you. And we obviously, Power School is one of our incredible partners. We partner with companies like Power School who get it, who are supportive, who are really striving to have diversity and inclusion in their workforces. And so that if you don't have that now with your current company, it's out there for you, and you will find that. And I think never stop believing in yourself and advocating for yourself throughout the whole process.
That's a great tip for job seekers. Never stop advocating for yourself. I have a question just out of curiosity. How many ERGs are there at Power School?
I can get that count very quickly.
Oh gosh, no, I didn't mean to make you go doing much work.
No,
It just seems like
I think it's like 7 or 8, I want to say.
That's incredible.
I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great group, a bunch of amazing groups.
It's incredible, and a true testament to Power School about how you're fostering these ERGs and how it literally infiltrates from the bottom up into the product and kind of everything you touch. So we at the Mom Project are very inspired by what you all are doing. I also have another question. Sorry that I have lots of follow-ups, but what would you say to someone who wanted to get involved in an ERG but didn't really know the right place to start?
I would probably ask, which ERG are you interested in, and find we have an internal intranet site that they can go to that has the list of contacts. So, if there's any questions that they have around, dedicating time, there are various layers or levels that you can participate in. Understanding time constraints and making sure that they're aware of all that's available to them, and then send them probably to the chairperson, co-chairperson for the ERG and their managers to make sure that they've got the sign off, which I have not seen a problem with so far.
Good. I like those steps. There's some tangible steps in how to get involved. And then Shannon asked a question from the chat. Thank you, Shannon, about how we can create allyship in places where there is harm occurring, or, conservative communities. Do you have any suggestions on how to cultivate that?
I do. Yeah. So there are ways that you can kind of identify yourself as a safe space in a more hostile environment. It can be a matter of just like wearing, finding a pin that identifies you as a safe place that you can put on your cubicle wall, or in your community, setting up a flag, right? You can, at least for the LGBTQIA community, you are able to, one way I like to say that I'm a safe space is I'll be like, hi, my name is Sarah, and I am, and my pronouns are she, her, normalizing that as a conversation so that it doesn't become that sticking point of, ooh, how do we navigate this? And there are small little things that you can drop that tell people that you are a haven where needed.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I also think it probably depends upon the workplace, but I do think that we always encourage the development of new ERGs. So I think we have in total 11 because I went and counted. And there's always new ones that are developing. And so I think that none of them are stagnant. Like, don't look at, oh, well, my workplace only has these 2 ERGs. There are so many different subcultures and groups and ways that we can all learn from each other. And I think it's that whole notion of like really bringing your true self to work. What is that? And how can others learn from you? And, going to your leaders to see, if you can create that ERG, and, seeing what the vision is, and you will have others that are going to want to come and follow and learn. So don't be afraid to, start something new as well.
So I had never heard the phrase calling someone in and not calling them out before today's conversation, but I'm going to start using that all the time. And I think in response to this question, it is hard. It is genuinely hard. Like I said earlier, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm in this like little blue bubble in this giant red state, and definitely face this. And so I think the best advice I could give is to identify those opportunities where maybe someone is taking action or making comments just because they aren't aware. And so being able to have that relationship and those conversations where you can just point out, like, that term you used, it's not okay. And you really, shouldn't phrase things that way. And that's really difficult to do, especially in a professional environment when you're not really close with people. But I think that really is the true definition of allyship, is figuring out a way to bring those people in instead of calling them out, and make a change on the individual level. That will go a long way.
Yeah. The calling in too, just asking questions. Why did you choose those words? And and making it a conversation rather than, a shameful, isolating thing. Why? It can go a long way.
Why do you find that funny? Or where
Yeah.
did you hear that maybe?
And I think like a lot of that goes back to the one of the mantras that we really talked about a lot is education. Some people don't always come to it with a heart of trying to insult. They just maybe don't know. And so just really making sure that you're there also educating some people as well. So
Yeah. Well, Michelle, it's kind of like what you said when you talked about people who just making mistakes and giving people the benefit of the doubt of like, we're just trying, we're coming and we want to feel safe. And I think that's also another aspect of feeling safe, is to be able to call someone out and to know that you're calling them in for what they're doing. So I think this is all coming back. Everything we're talking about is crossing. But I think that was also something that you brought up that I really liked, is just assuming the best and knowing that we can lead with kindness and vulnerability. And especially, Charisse, how you pointed out about the camp counselor who brought them in and led with empathy. It's such a good lesson for us all, I think, too, when life gets really busy and, things are moving at a rapid pace, is to like take a step back, because I think sometimes you can get kind of caught up in the hecticness of it all and forget that, especially for me as a parent. Sometimes I lack empathy. But, thank you for sharing for sharing those. Are there any final thoughts that the group has to add? I know that there were so many amazing takeaways on how we can continue to foster allyship in the workplace and beyond, and I'm so thankful for your contributions today. Amazing.
Thank you for your partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, well, it's our pleasure, and I know that we've learned so much about PowerSchool today. And if anyone is interested in learning more about PowerSchool, we can also drop the jobs link into the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to speak with you and learn more about what you're doing at PowerSchool and how you foster this true sense of allyship in the workplace. With not only your employees, but the product that you serve and the students that you serve. And again, we've added the panelists' LinkedIn information so you can connect. And to everyone joining us today, I hope you have learned something to take with you on your career journey and beyond. And thank you so much for being part of our community. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.